Hi everyone, I'm Trisha Morris from Club Scrap and welcome to the summer volume event. I'm so excited to share my U-Hinge album with you. Now if you purchased the craft along kit ahead of time, I still encourage you to sit back, relax, and watch this project go down. I'm going to work relatively quickly within the time constraints that we have. And then later on, when you have a little bit more time and really fully understand how the project comes together, work on creating your little album at your very own pace. If you got the craft along kit ahead of time, you'll have almost everything you need to create this project, including the bookbinding glue and a mini glue applicator, foam brush, an entire Club Scrap peony page kit, a sheet of our sturdy 12 by 12 mat board, and you will also need a really good paper trimmer. I'm using this Fisker's guillotine trimmer that we carry. I also have a pencil, some basic tools here, and scoring tool and a bone folder, as well as a grid ruler. And then if you also happen to have our accordion pocket file, I always use this to keep pieces organized while we trim things. If you don't have this, have a pile labeled A, B, C, and D, and that will help you stay organized with our project. The first thing I'll have you do is remove all of the paper from the package, and let's put the paper in the order in which we will be trimming it. Now, if you're using a different Club Scrap page kit to assemble this project, that's totally okay. You'll just need to make your paper substitutions. We'll begin with the beautiful all-over peony print, followed by the other peony print that has all the stripes on it. And I'll just place these face down on my work surface. Next, find one green, then one dark pink, two light pink, two of this gorgeous coverweight metallic pink, then another all over peony print, followed by the remaining striped print. Again, I'm putting those face down on my trimmer. Dark pink, and then this heavyweight mat board that's included in the craft along kit. And then you're going to be left with 2 sheets of printed cut aparts that you can use to decorate your book, as well as a spare sheet of green plain. You can just set those aside for now. Take the entire stack of organized items and flip back over to the top of the pile, which brings us to this beautiful all over print. And then I'm looking at the first step of the trimming instructions, which tells us to put the paper into the trimmer with the grain dipping easily left to right. So to determine the grain, hold the paper by a long edge, rotate, and then study the behavior of the paper. Here, do you see how it dips very, very easily? It's very flexible. Here, it's very stiff. So the grain should dip left to right, and our first cut will be at 7 1/4. Stabilize every time you trim and make sure your paper is level at the top. Then rotate this paper and trim it in half at 6 inches. These are actually going to be the front outside cover papers, and I'm going to put them in pocket A. Then take the remaining piece of paper at 4 3/4 by 12. We'll just trim horizontally at 6 1/4. Now the 6 1/4 piece goes in pocket C to be the back of one of the page panels, and then pocket D, we're going to put all the rest of the pieces that you can use at your discretion. Next, I'll take this gorgeous striped print and place it in the trimmer so it's right side up. The grain direction does not matter when you're trimming this particular piece. Our first cut will be at 11 3/4, and then 7. Then rotate. I'm going to give you directions a little bit different than the prescribed because I want to try to preserve this side of the print. So if you're using this collection, trim with me at 7 and 5. So what that will give you is 2 pieces the same size. These are 5 by 7, and put them in pocket A. And then this narrow strip goes in D. The remaining wider strip will trim horizontally at 6 1/4. Place this in pocket C, and the remaining smaller piece in D. And then, of course, you have this long, skinny scrap. Moving on to the green plain, we'll check for grain direction. We want it running top to bottom, so the paper should be very flexible from top to bottom before you place it in the trimmer, and cut at 5 inches. Rotate and trim at 9 1/2, 8 1/4, 7, and 5 3/4. This is going to become the spine of our book. And then I want you to take the 3 really narrow pieces and set them aside to be scored. And there's also going to be a skinny strip. This is 2.5 by 5. We're going to file that in pocket D. This next large 7 by 12 will be scored, so set it aside for later. Then we're going to take the sheet of dark pink, check the grain, make sure it dips easily top to bottom, trim it at 7. Set this aside to be scored, and place this larger piece in pocket D. We can use that for decorating. Grab the next 2 sheets of light pink and simply trim them at 7. Again, these larger pieces will be scored and the smaller pieces can go in pocket D. I'm going to do it one more time. So take both of the beautiful metallic pink, check the grain, make sure it dips easily top to bottom, and trim again at 7. Make sure you stabilize firmly to keep the paper from moving. This goes aside for scoring, and these once again land in pocket B. Now I'll take the all over peony print as well as the striped print. We'll trim these at the same time, and I'm just putting them, this one in right side up. We'll cut at 11.5 and 6 3/4. Rotate this piece and trim at 11.25, 7.5, 3 3/4. Gather up these pieces that are all the same size. They're 3 3/4 by 6 3/4. Place them in pocket C. And you have 2 narrow scraps. I'll put them in pocket D in case I want to use them. And on this next piece, I'm just going to place it in the trimmer this direction and cut it at 6 1/4. It doesn't really matter. This will go in pocket C. And then the other piece will go in D to use at your discretion. I have to do the same with the second piece as well. Some more scraps. Next, we'll take the light pink paper and just bear with me while we finish up this trimming. We'll cut at 6 1/4. And then rotate, trim at 9.5 and 4 3/4. These 2 pieces go in pocket C. The narrow strip is a scrap. And finally trim the 5 3/4 by 12 at 7 1/4. This will be the outside cover of your book, going in pocket A, and once again the scrap in D. Now we've arrived at this really super heavy mat board, and you're probably wondering how in the world I'm going to trim this. Watch this. We'll put it in at 7 1/4. And what I want you to do is hold onto this very, very firmly and bring that blade down. Then rotate. We'll cut at 10.5 and 5 1/4. Look at that. Amazing how this trimmer cuts right through it. The blade is still just fine. These 2 pieces will go in pocket A. Now here's a narrow strip that fell off the end. We'll trim that horizontally at 5 1/4. And that's our book spine, also going in pocket A. Here we have a small scrap, and we also have a larger piece that you can use later for a different project. Since we're finished with this trimmer, I can now set it aside. We have this whole series of 7 by 12s that need to be scored to create our inside pages. Let's take one of those pages, I'll put it horizontally into my score pal, and let's score at 4 and 9. Again, that was 4 and 9, and you can repeat that for all the remaining pages. If you'd like, you can take all these pages and put them in pocket B. You also have a series of really skinny little pieces. If you're right-handed, I recommend you place them into the score pal vertically at the far right edge and score at 11 1/4 and 11.5. If you're left-handed, I recommend you put them on the left side and score at 1/2 and 3/4. I was able to do it just fine on this side, but it's just a little more comfortable for me over here. Now I have my 3 hinges for my book. I can file these in pocket A. Go ahead and take everything out of pocket A, where you'll find everything you need to make the outside front cover of our book. We'll begin by taking the 5 3/4 by 7 1/4 outside cover paper and place it vertically on your work surface. We're going to measure and mark a line 1 inch from the bottom edge of that paper by using my clever grid ruler. So this bold line across the center of my 2x8 ruler is 1 inch, so I'll just go ahead and mark that across the bottom. Then I'm going to mark a line 2 inches from the left edge of this paper, and since my ruler is 2 inches wide, I'll just go ahead and put that right there and draw my line. So from here to here, that's 2 inches. Next, take one of these mat board covers, and I'm going to take my ruler once again, position the board horizontally, the ruler vertically at 2 inches from the edge, and mark another line here at 2 inches, and repeat that for the second cover. Since I'll be using some glue, I'm going to protect my work surface with one of our grid paper pads. And then let's return the dark pink spine cover piece we prepared, put it back on our work surface vertically. And now I'm going to take one of the boards that I've measured and marked at 2 inches from the edge. In your craft along kit, you'll have some of our awesome bookbinding glue. So I just want you to dispense a small amount of glue onto the 2-inch marked area. Then take the chiseled tip of your foam brush and just pick up some of the glue and run that along that pencil line that you made. Then just simply make long sweeping strokes. If you need more glue, go ahead. The board is quite absorbent, but you just don't want too much glue. Do you see how I have that applied? You can see a little bit of the white. And I held this off of my work surface the whole time, and I tried to do that as a habit. Now all I have to do is try to aim the lower right corner of this glued surface into the intersecting pencil lines I've already made on my spine piece. You're gonna love how this turns out. Press down a little bit and just flip the whole works over, and you can see how this is lined up perfectly with our glued area. Isn't that awesome how that worked? Next, I'll take my grid ruler and place it along the bottom edge of my project, just to make sure the next piece, when it's attached, will be level with the previous piece. My goal is to keep 1/8 of an inch, and on my rulers, 1 cube equals 1/8 of an inch. I want an 1/8 inch gutter between the cover and the spine piece. So I'll apply the glue the same way, holding this off of my work surface, make a long sweeping motion with the brush, basically to remove a lot of the excess glue and to spread it evenly across. Then place that 1/8 of an inch away from the piece next door. You can apply glue to the marked area on the remaining mat board cover that we've prepared. Use the same technique of running the chisel tip along that pencil line. And then smoothly brush out the glue across the rest of the area. Turn it over, and now place this 1/8 of an inch away from the previous piece, the spine, and it should be relatively close to the marked pencil line that we've just made. So I'm just going to press this down a little bit and then almost right away flip it, and you can see there's just a small extra bit of glue there. That's totally fine. And now I've attached the spine to my mat boards. You can burnish that with a bone folder very gently. Next, you can take more bookbinding glue and dispense it along the exposed area of the board. This time use the chisel tip to run right along the edge of the paper you've added for the spine, and then make long sweeping strokes across the rest of the area. And you'll notice again that the board is being held off of my work surface. This is a great way to prevent stray glue from getting on your project. Then take one of the cover pieces, and you'll notice it's going to be placed vertically next to the spine. It's the same height as the spine. I'll rest the piece on the spine paper and drag and drop it into place on the cover so that this is directly next to the spine paper. Creates a beautiful seam. And burnish. Pick up your project and repeat the process to add the remaining outside cover. We have a beautifully prepared outside cover. Next, we need to get rid of these flaps by wrapping them in. So we have a couple of things we need to do. First, I'm going to take a scissors. I forgot to mention you needed that. And I'm going to trim away some of the paper from the corner, call it mitering, leaving at least, I don't know, close to 1/8 of an inch. Maybe I'm going to have a little too much there, but you don't want to cut directly to the mat board cover. That's what causes an exposed area to occur. So just make sure that you leave a little shy of 1/8 of an inch at the tip of the cover, making sort of like a wide V shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Better to have too much paper in that corner than not enough. So just make sure you don't cut right to the board. That's a common mistake that beginner bookmakers make. Next, I'm going to take my bone folder and run along these paper flaps, touching the tip of the folder along the edge of the spine piece to cause the paper to turn up at a 90-degree angle. Then I'll use the side of my bone folder to make the paper take that second turn So it's wrapping itself around the edge of the boards beautifully. I'll do that on all 4 sides before I do any gluing. At this point, I have a lot of glue in my brush, and I'll start at the middle on the spine piece and just make sure I'm holding my project off of my work surface, and then I'll apply the glue to the flap, making sure you get to the ends. If you don't have glue on the edges of this flap, it won't stick. And then all I need to do is wrap this around and burnish it, and it sticks almost immediately. If you want to come in with your bone folder and just double check, and repeat the process for the remaining 2 flaps on the long edge only, and wrap those around. Once that's done, switch to the other side, do the spine and those long edge flaps again, and then wait for further instruction. Once you run out of glue in your brush, you may want to just add a little bit of glue, but if you do so sparingly, and then avoid putting glue near seams and corners so you don't have excess to deal with. Now here comes the fun part of making a beautiful, professionally looking wrapped book cover. You do have excess paper here at the tips on the corners. Remember, we left that there on purpose, and what I want you to do now is just simply tuck in that excess as if you were tucking in the sides of the tiniest gift you've ever wrapped. You know how you do. You wrap around the gift first, and then you tuck in the sides. Same action here, just tucking those in. Let's do a test drive. When we close this, look at what a gorgeous corner that makes. And I know that this is where a lot of things go wrong when you're trying to make a book cover. This will allow anyone who sees your book to think you're an absolute professional. Apply the glue to the flap. Again, notice I'm holding it off of my work surface. And once I put that flap in place, I've got a gorgeous, gorgeous corner. Repeat for the other side. That completes the wrapping of the outside cover, and isn't it absolutely looking beautiful? Our next step is to attach the inner spine cover, and you'll notice that if it's placed the wrong direction, it will go past the edges, and if we place it horizontally, it pretty much matches the same width of the existing spine. To apply glue to this, I will hold it in the palm of my hand and sort of cup it a little bit like a U shape. And then I'm going to fan the glue I've applied out to one edge. Again, it's off of my work surface. That way I don't have all that potential for stray glue. I even put my brush down in the same spot every time I'm done using it. Look at that nice thorough coat. And I will put this back, centering from top to bottom. Begin to burnish. And then I want you to take the pad of your finger and start working that paper in to the hinge on each side of the spine. After giving this just a second to start to cure, I'm going to go ahead and bend on the hinge and look for any spots that might pop up. Everything's adhered very, very well. So now I have a nice looking spine of my cover. Next, I have my inner covers left, so I can decide what I want where. I think I'll put this one on the left side and this one on the right with the word peony and this particular print. And you'll notice that if I keep this level with the spine piece, and then I have equal margin left or bottom, left, and right here on the covers, these are going to be well placed. So the same rule applies. I'll cup the piece I'm applying adhesive to. And if you're unable to do that, grab a piece of scrap paper and place the paper down and hold it flat. But this is just a great way to quickly and easily apply glue. Once burnished, go ahead and repeat for the other cover. We are almost finished completing the entire cover. You have 3 little pieces remaining from pocket A. They have score lines on them. I want you to fold along the score line so that the bump of the score goes on the inside of the fold. In other words, bury those bumps. Bury them inside the fold. And repeat for the remaining 2 hinges. Now, to install the hinges, if you want, you can use your larger bottle of glue, or you can switch to the smaller bottle. Just put some of this glue into this needle-tipped applicator and apply glue to the 1/4 inch area, or the center basically of the hinge. If you want to smooth the glue out, just do it with the brush that's already has glue in it. Very, very lovely. Now I'm going to place this in an important location. So here's my front cover. This is the front, this is the back. I'm going to start from the back of the book. Here's the spine. There's the hinge between the spine and the cover, this little gutter right here. I'm going to place this hinge aligned top to bottom and right next to that gutter. So very, very close. You don't want it on the gutter or the book will lose its functionality. But here's my gutter and there's my U-hinge, my first hinge. Just make sure, see, that's looking really good. So this little thing now has become a U-shaped hinge in my book. Looks really nice. You can see how quickly the glue dried. I'm going to use a scoring tool. You can use a bone folder as well, but I'm going to take my grid ruler and place it so that I'm 2 cubes away from the edge of my first hinge. And just run that scoring tool along the ruler's edge. And what that's doing is giving me a very subtle guideline. I'm not even sure if you can see it. A 1/4 inch away from the first hinge. This is the place where I want to install my second hinge. So go ahead and apply the glue to the middle of the hinge. Spread it out nicely. And align this with my scored guideline. Now you can see I have 2 hinges installed and they're each a 1/4 inch apart. I'm going to repeat for the third hinge by adding my score line a 1/4 inch away and then applying glue to the U-hinge. After only a few seconds of installing the third hinge, I have something that looks really nice and very, very functional. And this is what's going to allow a lot of space between my pages, which then allows me to attach a lot of embellishments. Speaking of pages, let's get those installed. I'll remove all of those 7 by 12 pages from the B pocket, and I'm going to go ahead and fold them by burying the score on the inside of the fold. This is the 3-inch flap of our page, the shorter one. This is the 4-inch flap, and I want to end up with the 4-inch flap on top. So repeat that tri-folding for the remaining pages. Then place the pages in the order you'd like to see them appear in the book. Here I have my book again, and this is my front cover, the back cover. This is the last hinge. Each hinge has 2 flaps, so I want to isolate the very, very last flap. I'll go ahead and add some bookbinding glue to the flap, and I'm going to dispense it from a needle tip applicator and then just smooth out the adhesive with my brush. Once I have that, I'll take the last page I've planned, which is going to be this beautiful metallic pink, and I'm going to place it onto the top of the glued area, making sure that the wide flap is on the top and in front. And when I do apply this, I want to make sure that there's just a little gap between the score line of the hinge and the page. Otherwise, this flap tends to get caught on the score line, and we don't want that to happen. So just make sure the page is level, straight, and that you have a little gap between this and then the gutter of that first hinge. And make sure that the page opens and closes easily, that you haven't inadvertently gotten glue in between. Then just move the second hinge back and apply glue to that hinge. Take the next page and install in the same way, making sure there's just a small amount of space. Check to make sure that the page is level with the previous one, and allow enough dry time to make sure the page doesn't move. Isolate the next hinge in the same exact way and repeat this process until all the pages have been attached. If you'd rather experiment with putting glue on the back of the page to install it, if you think it might be easier, that's fine. The reason I landed on this process of applying the glue to the hinge itself is that the glue went all the way to the edge of the hinge, but not beyond it, and that seemed to give me a more stable installation. And now all of the pages have been installed into your beautiful book. Next, let's empty everything from pocket C, and you'll notice pieces that have 2 different sizes, more of a boxy shape and a more skinny shape. So the skinny shapes have been pre-trimmed to help you decorate the outside flap of every single page. And you can decide what artwork you want on those flaps, which way the artwork will be positioned. Maybe you want to go every other because you have the large floral print and then the striped design. Whatever you want to use is totally fine. And once you have them all allocated, then I would go back and just one at a time, you can either use your favorite adhesive or you can use the bookbinding glue from the needle tip applicator to attach the decor to each outside flap. With those installed, you'll notice you still have these wide pieces. Where do they go? Well, I'm trying to make this easy for you, as easy as I possibly can, but you can also take this flap and notice I've determined the measurements that make it fit perfectly within the open area on the back of each one of these trifold pages. So with these, you can alternate with color, and I encourage you to plan ahead so that things are looking the way you want them to look as far as pattern variety, you know, whatever you see for your completing this. It's really going to help to plan ahead. So maybe I don't want that there since it's different from the cover. So I'm going to swap this here, put that there, and add this here. Designer's choice, go ahead and use your favorite adhesive to nest each one of these pieces on the back of the installed pages. Now, with all of my pages decorated already, it's just amazing how this album came together with such few supplies and such a small amount of time. Now, if this is your first handmade book and it doesn't turn out exactly like mine, please be patient with yourself. These are skills I have acquired over working with handmade books for many, many years, but if you follow this project step by step and get a little practice, I guarantee you'll be successful. Now, in Pocket D, that's all your decorative items, and you have all kinds of fun things in here that you can use to decorate not only the outside of your book, but also the inside of every trifold page. There is no page that needs to be unadorned here. Plus, in your kit, you have all kinds of other things that you can use to decorate the book. For example, we've included a stencil. You probably won't even need to use this. We've got 12 4¼ by 6¼ inch photo mats. So what you can do is open each page and select a color of a mat to go inside each one. And then when the page is partially closed, you can attach a second contrasting mat if you'd like to that page and then close it so that it peeks out like this, and you can add photos directly to those pages. And this book is wonderful for all those 4 by 6 horizontal photos we happen to have a lot of. You'll also find tons of ribbon. We have some neat die cuts and little pre-made flowers, as well as these glitter buttons. All of these things can be used to embellish your entire book. Now, this is my original prototype of the book, and you can see that I've got some decorative elements on the cover. Those come from the cut-aparts we've included with this kit. So for these, just trim the perimeter of the cut-apart using the guide marks to tell you where to trim, and then trim these pieces into individual bits, and then retrofit them to fit beautifully onto the book. When you open it, you can see here on my original sample how everything's been decorated with the scraps and other materials that came. Here's the button, and I just have all kinds of fun things going on with these pages. I did keep the decor pretty minimal on this original version. I could have kept going and going and going, but every page has something fun to offer and a lot of neat real estate for your pictures. Now, if you're using a special edition release from Club Scrap, these don't come with those pre-cut photo mats. This is the Gone Wild collection, and I have a special set of instructions for you in the document in step 7. This step we skipped when we were using a monthly Club Scrap page kit. If you're using a special edition, you can create your photo mats and additional materials for decorating by trimming 4 additional sheets of paper by following those instructions. And then for this as well, I was able to create my mats and use the embellishments to beautifully embellish this Gone Wild book. I think this would be perfect for a trip to the Magic Kingdom, don't you? Maybe to Animal Kingdom, I guess it is. Animal Kingdom, or Busch Gardens, or just even a hike in your backyard. I also used another special edition collection. This actually shares the same style of beautiful green paper that was in the Peony kit, but took this in a completely different direction. This is called the Lakes page kit, and the embellishments and cut-aparts in this kit just created a gorgeous mini book completely ready for my 4 by 6 horizontal photos. Of course, you can use verticals as well, but every page has something fun to offer. As with all Club Scrap instructions, this is completely recyclable, so be sure to make an additional book project like this one and share it with us at our private Club Scrap Facebook group called Club Scrap Chat. If you're interested in joining one of our monthly kit clubs, we have a page kit and card kit available. It's only $21.95. And this month's theme is regatta. It's absolutely beautiful. Be sure to visit our landing page where you can find the instructions and a picture of the new regatta kit at clubscrap.com/pages/U-Hinge. I'll see you there.